Okay, now you guys can hear me. I'm a dumbass. Hello. Welcome to the pre-recorded version of the slideshow because I forgot to hit record several times when doing the live presentation. So I'm going to give you a short synopsis version of the slideshow because the live version went on for an hour, so we're not going to do that. And I also chucked my phone across the room so I can't even see the script of what I'm going to say because we're going to keep this short. All right, we're going to skip over a few things that you don't need to worry about. But what's important is that I've been making comics for 9 years now. Here's some evidence to prove that. And I'm going to personally show you how to make your own Bombass comic to keep your audience engaged in the story. So let me show you the world of comics. And we're going to go over 3 things right here: comic design, storytelling tips and tricks, and mastering the mystery genre. Right? So with comic design and camera shots and storyboarding, there's a bunch of different camera shots that you can use to really understand the space that you're working with when you're telling your story. And I highly recommend doing some research to understand what each of these shots mean and when to use them, because I also gave a little quiz. I'm just going to give you this. Search up what each of these shots mean and then do this quiz. Right? Just pause for yourself, like test yourself, pause the video, right? And then quiz it. Winner gets bragging rights. So if you win, you get to brag. Hooray. Right? Here's the first one. Pause your video. If you're ready to continue, here is the answer. If you got it, then you're welcome. You did a good job. Round 2, there's 3 rounds. Here's the next one. Pause your video. And then here's your answer. Ta-da! Round 3, the final round. Here's the question. Pause the video. Ready for your answer? Here is your answer. If you got all that right, you get a little pat on the back. Congratulations. Because now we're moving on to storyboarding, which again, there's a lot to go through in storyboarding, but essentially I explained all that you need to know by just the visuals alone. So I'm going to show these here. Feel free to pause if you need to. Here's an example of utilizing space from my comic. You can definitely see how they're all spaced out, right? And you can tell April's furthest in the back, Donnie's closest in the front, yada yada. Here is the framing. Pause to read. It's pretty self-explanatory. Here's an example of that using my comic, where April's off to the side. She's not in the center. She's off-centered, especially since there's so much text going on here. That's another thing that you want to utilize space in mind for your characters and for the text. So that's also very important too. Here's the other one. Very simple. Pause to read if you really need to. Right. Here's an example using my comic. This is wall 1, wall 2, and wall 3 would be right here. Like in this panel right here, this is wall 3. This is the 4th wall. We do not look past the 4th wall. That's why the 4th wall is called the 4th wall and why it's told when we're saying like something secretive or breaking reality or something like that, because this is breaking the 180 rule. You're breaking the reality of the story. That's what it means. And remember, Casey is facing towards screen right, but Donnie is always facing towards screen left. Make sure you maintain consistent screen direction. Then we have comic formatting, where you can pause to read, essentially, just pause to read, but differentiating the panels can really help with flow and creativity. Here is where I tell you that I actually take a lot of inspiration for my comic from Cast Apocalyptic series, if anyone remembers that, because of course you do. You can almost say it's near verbatim, and I wish to one day make scribbles like this so that I don't have to worry about perfection anymore while I'm just doing straight lines and everything's nice and neat, you know. One day I'll let go and just draw for fun. One day. Give him a little red eye. Whee! And here's some more examples using my comic with like that bar 3s right here, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. A straight line right here shows like a beat, 1, 2. Diagonal line is when there's more flow, like going here and then going over there. And then you can change it up a little bit, like how this is just 1, 2, and then 3. Sometimes we just take this line away entirely, so we just see a long, short over here, but then this is all wide and open. Also a great way to go about doing it. Then here's an example of shading, where like the closer up the characters are, the darker they get. Even though like this plane right here is not like closest up to the camera, I'm still using shading to help tell a story and telling you that that plane is getting really fucking close to the ground. Holy shit, oh shit, it's gonna blow! But you can also break these rules. That's right, you can take everything I say and just fucking ignore it. Because Casey right here gets so frustrated that he makes a mess. And in doing so, making a mess, the comic becomes a mess. He is breaking past the barrier, he's going right, left, right, he's causing a mess as he's doing so, and Mike is just like, whoa. Mike is just like, whoa. Which brings us to number 2, which is storytelling tips and tricks. First, starting with adapting to the 5 senses. Here are the 5 human senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. And you might be thinking, why does it matter that I focus on these? Because you can only see a comic. You can't do this with a comic. Yes, you can, and you can do it in 2 ways: onomatopoeia or dialogue. Onomatopoeia refers to sound effects, so that's like slam, and it's shaky breathing, right? And it like kind of goes down like that, little sniff, or like a giant slurp, capitalized, and this long slurp, and then little gulp, gulp, gulp. And even Casey's speech itself is just onomatopoeia or sound effects because it's all shaky. And he will be talking in handwriting throughout the entirety of the comic. Even when he's a teenager or an adult and like he fully understands language, he won't be talking in text like everyone else. He'll be talking in handwriting. So there's a little fun fact for you. And then the other thing we're showing is dialogue, right? This is some sneak peeks from episode 4. You can see right here, we're using dialogue to tell about touch or like smell, touch, like itchiness, hurtiness. He's throwing off his clothes as it's so hot out. And then also taste, is just describing the food, right? So that's how you tell the other senses in the story, through onomatopoeia and dialogue, to really immerse your readers in the story and really get them to feel the same way the characters are feeling. Which also goes into emotional feeling. So when you go to know your audience, you can actually feel what that character is feeling, because you can relate to that. It's like, oh yeah, I totally get that mood, bro. That is totally relatable. So here's an example. A large portion of the TMNT fandom are actually mothers or parents. So I keep that in mind, because it's not like a majority, but it's still like a pretty large proportion. So I keep that in mind when I write for OKCU, because this is the main character right here, and he has guardians. This is his caretaker. That's his mom/dad, and that's his other mom, right? So showing all these parenting stuff right here really appeals to the parents, but can also appeal to the children as well, who may relate to Casey on a personal level because they themselves have understand like abuse or bad parenting themselves, right? You can relate to Casey here, or you can relate to the parents. Either way, this is a great way to like connect with your audience and be like, hey, I know you. This is for you, right? Which brings us to our third point, which is mastering the mystery genre. And we got a bunch of classic mystery flows going on. Like, there's a detective in the story. There's that character who we think is the antagonist, but turns out to be someone else entirely. There's like the character who has like main character energy but isn't the main character. It's a whole bunch of different tropes and archetypes that you can give your characters to indulge in mystery. And even though Feral KCU isn't about mystery, we can still use that same elements to tell a story. Like for Johnny, he represents violent activism, meanwhile Mikey represents pacifist activism, as well as Chicano culture. Chicano rep? Chicano rep? Anyone? No? Me? Just me? But that's the funny thing, because while Johnny represents violent activism, Mike represents pacifist activism. They have the same goal in mind. They want to save the world from the Krang. But they have different pathways of doing that. Johnny's over here being like, you need to take action, get off your fucking lazy ass and do something about it. Meanwhile, Mikey's saying, don't worry, it'll all work itself out in the end. We just need to have hope. So there's different mindsets going on here, and they both still want to heal the world from the Krang, but they have different pathways of going about it. And they're like the devil and angel on Casey's shoulders. Casey, the main character, who's going to deal with the dilemma and have to decide which side he's going to pick when it comes to the end of the story. And then this is where mystery comes in, because Leo's archetypes, there's a little bit of spoilers, so we're not going to go over that, but he's also a red herring. He is deliberately distracting you from what's important. Over here, he's distracting his brother from being sad and is cracking jokes so that he would stop crying and focusing on his son who has severe mental health issues. And over here, he's fucking singing Britney Spears. Meanwhile, Casey's telling April, hey, the Krang are still alive inside and are sentient and can feel pain. Anyways, all eyes on me and listen in the ring just like a circus. So that's a red herring, throwing you off your game so you don't even focus on that. But sometimes, actually no, sorry, I don't have my script on me. Ignore what I just said, because then we have subtle hints and Easter eggs, right? So this usually comes from the gaming community, where like a lot of people will spend a long time looking for something, or explore over the place, or play a game over and over again, or wait until a certain time period for a specific Easter egg. The game is rewarding you for actively seeking out every single nook and cranny in the game. Right? So, as a comic artist, you need to reward your audience for actually paying attention to details. So this is where Easter eggs come in. This is why people love Easter eggs, right? This is the fucking stork plane. The plane that baby Casey arrived in is called the stork plane. Interesting. There's also the Apocalypse brand gimmick throughout the entire story, and Apocalypse brand candy and soup and clothes and all that stuff. We have secret decoded messages. We have funny little quiz. We even have a little bit of lore right here, like Krang are photosensitive. Huh, that's interesting. I should probably keep note of that because that sounds very important, right? But this really, really helps out because when there's something in the background that needs further detail and focus on, people may or may not be able to catch on to those secrets. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes they miss what's in the background and the details entirely. And sometimes you have to give them a little nudge. For example, no one has unlocked the secret achievement in my AU. And if you're watching this, you will not be able to unlock it because I bet by the time you're watching this, the convention will be over. But I will show you the secret achievement for my AU anyways. This is what it is. The Decipherer. Decipher the secret message in Pharaoh KCU's first anniversary animatic. This is the animatic itself. I will be playing it for you so we can watch together. And then I'm going to show you how it was done, right?
Now the fields grow brittle for the harvest moon. This time she won't be forgiving.
Huh. Well, wait, hold on. Rewind. What was that? Did you guys see that at the end? Let's take a closer look. What is that? This is a secret message, written in Krang font. And if you guys wish to follow along on decoding it, I have sites available. Just pause to read and pause. Don't continue playing until you move on to the next part. Right, because I hold your hand. I held people's hands as they unlocked this secret achievement. So this is the Krang font, which is a fan-made font created by Atlanta Hammy, who studied the details and secret Easter eggs of the show and cracked the code, giving it to us for all. So here is the cheat sheet on screen. Here's the message. Feel free to pause and figure it out on your own because the next slide does have the answer. So go ahead. All right, ready to continue? Ready to figure out if you got it right? It's deciphered, not into English, so it looks like gibberish. So it's deciphered into this message. Hashan Mishla Pachmana Yentonatia. That's a handful. Hashan Mishla Pachmana Yentonatia. That is a language in Nawa, the indigenous language of my people, the Mexica people. And I want you to take this message into Google and figure out what it translates into. Keep in mind you might need to put this accent over the I, because Google might get confused and doesn't know what the fuck you're saying, just so you know. But type that message into Google. Pause and come back when you have the answer. Excuse me. So the answer? The English translation is "Today the sun has covered his face." And what did Google say the meaning of the phrase was? Anyone know? When an elder tradition or great city has been lost to darkness. Ashan Mishla Pachmana Yen Donatia. Today the sun has covered his face. A message that is said when an elder tradition or great city has been lost to darkness. Now, why would I put that in Feral KCU's first anniversary animatic? Why is it that Casey's first name itself is Nawa, and there's a whole info card here about how he is literally the representation of our people? Why is it that Casey, as a teenager, wears his grandmother's lip piercing as a necklace? Why is it that my character's cameo in the story is wearing traditional Mexica clothing? Why is it that Mikey is so adamant about representing Chicano culture? Why is it that there's a bunch of metaphors going on about Casey being split between two worlds and having to live two lives trying to play both sides, but he couldn't find his own place? You know what I mean? Why is it that everyone's so adamant on keeping Casey from transforming into the monster that he really is inside? And why is it that this is the focus of my comic? That is a question that you should be asking yourselves constantly as you read through the story, because it's something that'll keep you coming back for more. And that is how to make a bomb-ass comic. Yep. So there was your shortened version for anyone who wasn't able to attend. I'm so sorry I didn't click record earlier, but trust me, 17 minutes is better than a whole fucking hour, so you're welcome. And I really hope you guys learned something from this and how to make your own bomb-ass comic. So yeah, thank you for watching.